normally at this time, I would say, welcome to the once and future parent. But there are no longer any future parents on this episode because I have become a parent. So welcome to the once and current parents. I mean, future parents, because any of us can become parents again, because who the heck knows? But I'm Matthew. I'm now a parent, along with Pete and Mandy. So we're going to be talking about it today. Welcome to the podcast. We're talking about parenting. We're talking about babies. And most importantly, as we're all here, we're going to hear about Mandy's stories of parenthood this week.
Yeah, that's enough out of you, Matthew.
There you go. So I'm joined as always by my
one of us.
I'm joined as always by my co-hosts, Mandy and Pete. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Nobody cares.
Right?
I'm Pete Wright, and I am here just to hear Matthew's story. That's like why I've showed up today.
There you go.
Me as well. Mandy Kaplan from the Make Me a Nerd podcast. That's enough out of me.
Well, I will say, Mandy, the process of making you a nerd is clearly continuing because now I'm seeing you show up on TikTok. And I love that for you. So we're making you a nerd more and more step by step. But yeah, now this was the you have the Make You a Nerd podcast. I have apparently the Make Me a Parent podcast, and I am now a parent. So it is apparent that I have a child. Come on, guys!
It was fine. It was fine. I'll allow it, but only because this is your special day.
There you go. Okay, so let me tell you the story.
Yes,
please.
Because here's the thing: we had a plan. We had a plan all worked out.
Well, and yeah, it was supposed to be tomorrow as we record this.
No, we had an appointment to go to the hospital tomorrow at 6 p.m. to begin the induction process, which was already going to be a week early because the official due date for the baby was July 24th. We're recording this today on July 15th.
I love a punctual kid.
Right? Ugh. I'm being told all the time that kids are almost always 2 weeks early than the due date, which makes me think the due date is maybe erroneously
2 weeks late.
But
yeah,
we're gonna move right past that. So, Mary's been very pregnant, taking you back to last Thursday night, and last Wednesday night, as has been fairly common, Mary's not feeling very comfortable, and it's about 12:30. Mary's having trouble sleeping. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, I think labor could start any minute. And one of my things is that because of my own mental issues, I take a medication that helps me sleep.
Oh, boy.
I can't sleep without it. But once I take it, I am out for 8 hours.
Oh, no.
And we're now at the point where, because I don't want to be caught flat-footed, where Mary's like, hey, I'm in labor. And I'm like, I was sleeping for the next 4 hours. I'm not going to go to sleep until Mary goes to sleep. And we get to about maybe 12:45, 1 o'clock, and she keeps kind of rolling over, and then says, it's actually that I've getting this bad gas and constipation and also nausea. She's had nausea beforehand. And so she's kind of going back and forth to the bathroom and stuff like that. And I'm noticing that it's happening kind of regularly. And I say, Mary, do you think it's possible that you're going this is actually labor? And she's like, no. Everyone has told me you will know when you're in labor. This is just nausea and constipation and gas or whatever it is. I'm okay. She keeps telling me that I should go to sleep. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. So we go through about another hour of this. And she's starting to get to sleep. And I'm like, once I hear her snoring is when I will take my sleep meds and I'll go to sleep. And she's closed eyes and starting to breathe, a little heavy. And then all of a sudden she has to run to the bathroom. And I'm like, you know what? I'm curious about this. And so I Google what are symptoms of, labor. And nausea's right up there. And I go, that's a thing. And I call through the bathroom door. Hey, Mary, how's your lower back feeling? She's like, oh, yeah, it's kind of in some pain.
No.
That's also on the list. I wait till she does what she needs to do. She comes back out. I say, okay, so you're feeling these kind of bursts of stomach crampiness? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's fine. If you don't mind, tell me when you have the next one. And
I feel like you're just trying to win obstetrics clue or something. It was the mother in the bathroom with the lower back pain.
I mean, at this point, I think I figured it out. But Mary is very a stubborn person, wonderful, wonderful person. But she just not ready for this. And so the next time, I see her face kind of grimace, I just hit a stopwatch on my phone, and it passes, and then about a couple minutes later, it starts again. And then a couple minutes later, it starts again. And I say,
Couple minutes?
Couple minutes?
Mary, how about if we call the nursing line? Because I keep saying, let's just go into the hospital. She's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I say, how about if we call into the hospital to the nursing line and see what they say? And she's like, okay, fine. So we call in, we describe the symptoms. They're like, yeah, that's very possible that you're in labor. They're like, look, these may well be contractions you're having. Start timing them. And when they have been 5 minutes apart for 2 hours, then it's time for you to come in. And so we start timing them, and they come 3 in a row at about 2 minutes, 30 seconds apart each. And at which point
we're on a podcast, so Pete and I just did jaw drop, but you can't see it.
Yep, that's why I'm telling the story the way that I'm telling it. At which point I'm like, yep, we're calling the hospital right now. We're not waiting 2 hours. We call the nurse line again, and they're like, yeah, no, you're in labor and you're coming in right now. And here's where
Mary at this point is like, no, I think you should go to sleep.
Yeah, Mary has finally accepted that she's in labor at this point.
Good.
The showing her the stopwatch. She's a scientist much more than I am. She likes hard data, so I was able to provide data. We were good.
When you handed her the baby, did she believe it?
No. I mean, we were. But here's the thing. Part of our plan was we lived next door to a hospital.
Yeah.
And part of why we got the house that we got, which is a fantastic house at a pretty good price, was because a lot of people don't want to live next to a hospital. Mm-hmm. Every now and then an ambulance comes in at 2 a.m, but it's not as loud as people think it is, and we have blinds. But we were like, hey, we love the house. That's not why we bought the house, but hey, it means we can go literally across the street. Mm-hmm. Mary kept insisting she was going to walk to the hospital while she was in labor.
I remember this.
That's unlikely, but fair enough. But we call, we're like, okay, we're 2 minutes apart, so we're going to come on in. And they say, oh, well, actually, Methodist, the hospital we were supposed to go to, is full up, so we're diverting you to a different hospital.
Oh, no.
And they diverted us to another hospital. I'm not going to name it because it was perfectly fine. But it's in, like, imagine if you're getting ready to go to a big city hospital and, like, they kind of send you out into the sticks, you know? And it was a 25-minute drive away.
Uh-oh.
And so we have our get ready to go bag, like,
that's 90%. All I want to know.
Yeah.
Right?
When did you cave and do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, at least you're ready.
We had 95% of the get ready bag ready to go already. That was already taken care of. We had the stuff we were using every day we had to throw in there. We got all that in there. Of course, we had like 2 or 3 more things we want to do around the house to get everything ready. Didn't have a chance to do that. That's fine. And at that point, we go to the hospital. And it is in the middle of nowhere. We were so ready to have, like the delivery of sushi for when she gives birth, right after she gives birth. There's like nothing that's going to give good sushi out there. But it's okay. We get there. By the time we get all checked in and stuff, it's 5 a.m. And we're like, okay, we're going to just kind of start going through this. And we're all ready.
Are the contractions still 2 minutes apart?
Yeah. At this point, they're 2 minutes apart.
Okay.
So happening pretty often, but I'm just kind of staying with her. We get her a little bit of food, we get her some water. We try to make her as comfortable as we can. It's not a very comfortable situation, but, there you go. And then around 1:30, they say, let's start pushing. And 1:34, we started pushing. And 2:37, a baby popped out. And thus was born Penn McCurry Fox.
Wow.
So she was only in labor for 11 hours. She only knew she was in labor for about 8 hours, 6 hours. And she only had to push for about an hour. So.
Wow.
And did she do an epidural?
Outstanding.
She did do an epidural. She was in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort.
Yeah.
And then the epidural happened, and she was just. Neither one of us are really substance people, but when edible marijuana became legal in this state, she decided to try a couple of brownies, and got pretty high. This epidural was basically like that. She was just like, everything's fine.
Great.
Awesome.
A couple things happened during the birth itself that were a little scary. First of all, when the baby popped out, there was no crying noise at first. Mm-hmm. He just was a kind of quiet baby for the first 2 hours or so. And I was sort of like, you're telling me there's a baby. I can't see the baby yet, and I can't hear the baby yet. But they assured me that everything was fine. It was breathing. I was like, okay, that's fine. And Mary's happy as a clam and getting even more lightheaded. And the doctor who's right there is going, I need some sutures right now. There's some tearing.
Yeah.
So there was some tearing. It took about 30 minutes of the doctor looking very worried to get it all taken care of. And unfortunately, I've seen way too much. For some reason, this. Do you guys watch Downton Abbey?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, apologies for spoilers for a show that I think is 20 years old at this point and based on even older but there's one instance where, because of various machinations and classism and stuff like that, a major character doesn't get taken care of by the doctor who should take care of her, and she bleeds out after pregnancy and dies. And so that was just kind of stuck in my head as Mary was bleeding and the doctor was having trouble controlling the bleeding.
Yeah.
Everything was okay. And now this is a podcast that is open for all people of all backgrounds and lifestyles. And I'm never going to try and convince anyone, but I need to give my plug for polyamory. Or at least for having very good friends, and that polyamory can be a way to do that. Because I think I've mentioned that I have another partner named Abby. She's my girlfriend. Mary is my spouse who is pregnant. Abby and her husband, Ribs, live in Madison, which is about maybe 4 hours away from us. And Abby's been just basically a member of the family. She's been wonderful and supportive. The minute she heard that we'd gone into labor, it was like 4 a.m. First of all, she was doing all the Googles that we needed while I was trying to take care of Mary, so that was great. She gets in her car, drives up, arrives like a little before we start doing all the labor, a little after the baby is born, and then just spends ever since then has been just literally a third person helping us with everything. You know, she was getting food we needed to, drinks we needed to, taking care of the baby when we needed some rest. Mary was in the hospital for a total of 5 days because she had some high blood pressure issues. Again, everything was just like as frustrating as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
The Methodist hospital was supposed to have this really nice bed for me to be able to stay in. This one had like a fold-out couch that was incredibly uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And the thing was, we instead of Mary having to wake up every 2 to 3 hours because she was having all this blood pressure issues, we wanted to be able to say, look, one of us will do the midnight and 3 a.m. feeding so that Mary can sleep this whole time. I did that one night. I got terrible sleep, and Abby immediately was like, oh, I'll do it the next night. You know, and so she and I switched off nights. She was just so incredibly helpful and has been just such a wonderful person and part of the family. And I just want to brag about her for a little while. Mary's come through it great. You know, the hospital bed was terrible. The hospital food was terrible. We couldn't get good things delivered because it was the middle of nowhere. I couldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep. But we're home now. We have a wonderful baby. We got home yesterday around like 4 o'clock. The baby had been sleeping through the night. It did not last night. And I'll tell a little bit about that in a few minutes. But yeah, we're home. We've got a baby. We just had a home nurse come and visit and say that everything was pretty much fine. Mary is now holding the sleeping baby and watching some TV while I'm in here with you guys.
I'm
Wow.
so glad that your priorities are in order and that you got home yesterday and realized you had to podcast.
Yes, I mean you got to take care of what you got to take care of.
You absolutely do. I'm so happy for you.
So happy, and I have so many questions. What was it like when they said, okay, you're all set, you can go home? What was that moment like? And I want to know, Pete, if you remember that moment too, but it's fresher for Matthew.
Yeah.
So, like it always is in the hospital, it was kind of anticlimactic. So, because first of all, the thing was, she had to pass a couple of blood pressure tests. And what we needed was her blood pressure to be below 140 and 90. And like at first it had been like in the 150s and the 100s. So like, yeah, obviously we needed to get down, but and so like the day we were originally supposed to go, that morning she had a blood pressure of 138/91. And she had just been kind of like running around, like trying to take care of the baby or something. And then they said, well, a doctor who just is probably a very wise and very brilliant doctor, but had awful bedside manner, came in and was like, yeah, no, you can't go home yet. And then I spent the next 5 minutes. It was one of these doctors who just like, you'd ask them a very simple question and you'd need to, like, at one point I literally just asked, all I want to know is, are you saying we are definitely staying the night, or that we're going to keep doing tests and maybe go home later today, but we're definitely not going home now? And she started going, well, the national standards on that, like she tried to justify the answer when I just wanted to know what the answer was. I'm actually getting emotional about this because this was one of the most annoying times, because I could see Mary was so upset she had to stay later. She was on the verge of tears, and I just wanted to get this doctor out of the room. And finally, I was kind of rude to her, and I feel a little bit bad about that, but also just like, no, she had to get out of the room. We need to take care of that. So the last morning, we have 3 consecutive blood pressure tests that are fine. They're all like quite low. I think one that was like 139/89. So we're a little nervous, but the doctor comes in. It's a different doctor this time, much better, and says, don't worry, we're going to start the process of you going home. But then the actual process is just this like long involved thing of like, we got to get this paperwork and that paperwork. And one of the things that we had plans to get the car seat all set up. And of course that was one more of the things we didn't get to do beforehand because it all happened last minute. And so that morning then we were having trouble getting the car seat all set up and like just getting all the different straps in place. We get it all set up into the car, things like that. So I think we were just kind of anxious to go. And then they finally said like, okay, you can go. And I think it had been so long and there wasn't, I think, a big moment of like, oh my God, we're here with our baby. It was just like, okay, we're in a car, we're driving home. We're going home. And once again, all the praise in the world. Abby had been the one to go home and get a full night's sleep the night before. So Mary and I were exhausted. Abby was good. We got everything into the house. Abby picked up the baby and said, I got this. You two go sleep.
Aww.
And Mary and I just went and slept, and Abby took care of the baby for a couple of hours. And then we woke up, had a nice night together. And then when Mary was going to go into the other room and go to sleep for the night, because the idea was that she would go to sleep around like 10. I would stay up to like 4. Then she would wake up and I would go to sleep, and that way we'd each get like at least 6 hours of sleep. She had a pretty rough night, I think, because she just had like a lot of separation anxiety and stuff like that. But eventually she sort of like came out and slept on the couch where she could see the baby and see me and Abby taking care of the baby, and that made her feel better. And then a couple hours later, she went in and got some more sleep. Yeah, so I think there wasn't a big moment of like, oh my God, we're coming home with a baby. It was just like, okay, finally. And then,
Pete?
yeah. Then
Sorry, I'm just curious if Pete remembers that moment that they said, okay, you can go.
Yeah. It didn't hit me until we crossed the threshold of the hospital doors and we went from inside to outside. And I realized that because when you're in the hospital, it's so otherworldly and it just feels like you're kind of not of yourself. And then we're outside and suddenly you realize, oh, I'm Pete and that's Kira, and now I have a child, and do I remember how to drive? And like those were, I remember being, I'm just terrified of the car with the baby in it. I was like, I could not, it's a 10-minute drive back to our house, and I was as just tense as I had been, taking the smallest, backest roads,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a very slow drive for us, I remember.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that. I mean, I didn't drive crazy or anything, but we just drove the way I normally would drive.
Yeah.
Because we weren't 100% sure the seatbelt was set up right. Mary had kind of her hand on baby's chest.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we were too exhausted to be nervous. We were just like, finally, we get to leave.
Yeah. I remember when so they came in and they said, so you can go home today if you would like, or you can spend one more night and just, get a little rest here and let us look after the baby with you. And I said, yes, please. I'd like to stay because it's nice when you're insecure, the baby's fussing and then the nurses swoop in and they show you how to do things. And Jer said, no, we've got this. We want to go home today. And I said, okay, he's the father. He's my equal partner. Let's go home today. So they start the paperwork and then they came in and said, sign here. You're done. You can go home.
Yeah.
He had a freaking freak out. He was like, what have we done? It's just going to be us and this baby. Now we're in charge of this baby. And he had a full blown, anxiety attack about it. And I had to talk him down without saying, this is why we should have stayed one more night. But I didn't. And then that car ride, probably, the hospital is like 45, 50 minutes from where we live, all freeways, because I live in Los Angeles. And you don't know what life is like until you're driving 40 on the 405.
Right.
He couldn't bring himself to step on the gas. It was so sweet. And I was in the back seat and we were so nervous.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
I think for us, part of why we didn't have too much of that is that, when you stay that extra night, the nurses start doing less and less Like they don't come in to remind you to feed every 3 hours. They want you to start getting used to it yourselves. And then we had 2 more full days of it. Like I think we had 48 hours in the hospital, during which, from the nurse's point of view, the baby was checked out. The only patient in the room was Mary, and so I think we had kind of had some of those moments already. I will say that last night, after both Mary and Abby had fallen asleep, is when kind of the worst of the cluster feeding started happening. And Abby was actually awake for a lot of this too, but where like, you know, I would feed the baby, and then like he'd push the bottle away and fall asleep, and I'd be like, okay, fine. And then 10 minutes later, he would start crying again for the baby, you know, and like it was just a lot of like, I don't know why you're upset. What is happening here?
That goes away in like 18, 20 years.
Yeah, I figure.
So don't worry about it.
We'll see.
It's a
We'll see.
phase.
Yeah. But yeah, I think last night was a pretty rough night because of that. It was hard for Mary being away. It was hard for me. In part because also both Mary and Abby have spent a lot more time around babies than I have. My sister had a baby coming up on 2 years ago, but they live in Seattle, so I haven't gotten to spend much time with her. Mary's older sister has had 2 kids in the last 5 years, and they live in Chicago, which is not too far from us. So Mary has gone down and spent a lot of time with them.
Sure.
A lot of it was happening during COVID, so I didn't get to go. So Mary has been like, you know, changing diapers for a while and dealing with newborns for a while. And Abby has had similar stuff, both when she was a kid with her baby brothers, and also with she has some nieces and nephews on her through her husband. And so for me, I just like, I think the biggest thing I needed to get through my head was like, I'm not going to overfeed this baby. Like if the baby is pushing away the bottle or is not like, you know, sucking actively, it probably means he is still hungry. He just doesn't quite sure, you know, so just wait a few minutes and then give him more of the bottle, and then wait a few minutes and give him more of the bottle. Because once we just kind of like, you know, like, baby, I don't care what you say, we're just going to give you this entire bottle and then probably more of a second one. Then he finally stopped with like every 10 minutes and slept for 3 full hours. So, and then fed again and then slept for another 3 hours. So it felt like, okay, that was like the biggest like thing I had to figure out. But then we got through that and then we were okay.
I want to step back to the actual birth because I you know, for me, that was a pretty transformative experience. And what was your role in the birth process? Were you just bedside? Did you cut the cord? What was that like for you?
So I didn't cut the cord. What I wound up was like, they don't really do Lamaze anymore, but they're still kind of coaching. And I wound up being that. Because what they were telling Mary was that every time there was a contraction, they wanted her to push for 10, like, you know, count through 10, pause for 1 or 2 seconds, and then do that a total of 3 times. And so once I like got the cadence and stuff from the nurse, I took over that. And so the contraction would start and I go, you know, okay, Mary, you've got this. I would count to 10 and keep doing like lots of encouragement, like, you're doing amazing, I'm so proud of you, like all of that kind of stuff. And then so I was kind of really focused on taking care of Mary, while everyone else was like trying to figure. And so they would give us updates and be like, oh, I can see the baby's head now, I can see this and that. Mary's really excited to have a ginger, and they started even from like when it was just crowning, being like, I don't know, looks kind of red. For those who haven't seen a picture of me, I'm a ginger. I still don't think we have enough of the baby's hair yet to see, but Mary's insisting that the baby's a ginger. We'll see. It'd be nice to have another one in the family. I don't know yet. But yeah, I think that was kind of my role, was really, and I am like everybody else. I saw my baby. I was so excited. I was super, super happy. And I've been just like utterly enthralled and in love with this little baby from the moment it happened.
Yeah.
To quote Fraser Crane, if I may, when Roz is pregnant and alone and very scared about having a baby, I'm getting choked up about Fraser. He says to her, here's something that they don't tell you, Roz. You not only love your baby, you are in love with your baby. And that couldn't be more true. And to have it be said by someone else made it feel so real to me when I was just, I'm certain I'm still in love with my son. It goes well beyond loving a person. It's this all-encompassing, you know, powerful thing.
Fully agree with all of that. But what I was saying was actually kind of a lead up to something kind of contrary to that, which is that one thing I was very aware of from maybe like month 3 of the pregnancy, And I wound up sitting down with Mary and telling her this because I wanted her to know and understand this. And she was like, okay, I get where you're coming from. You know, one of the things you see, if you see a lot of like TV shows where people get pregnant and then something goes horribly wrong, is that sometimes like a parent has to make a person has to make a choice. You know, like something horrible happens and it's like, do you choose the life of the mother or the life of the baby? And again, this is why I wanted to preamble this and be like very, very clear. I absolutely love the hell out of my baby, little Penn, and I'm so excited to have him in my life and I'm crazy in love with him. Even up to like the beginning of the birth process, I'm baffled that that's a question for people. Because for me, Mary is someone I've had this relationship with for however many years. And while Penn is the most incredible creature I've ever met, and I want to like love it, especially even before the birth, I was always like, if something horrible happens with Mary, I can make another baby. With a baby, I can't make another Mary. Despite what people say about DILFs these days. And so to me, that was just always so incredibly clear. And I kind of think even then, like, because there was this bleeding issue, I was sort of like, the part of the back of my mind was like, I want to make sure that baby's okay. Okay, they've told me the baby's breathing, that's fine. But the minute there was this bleeding issue and I saw the concern on the doctor's face, like that was my entire world, was, is Mary going to be okay? And like there was at one point where there was like 5 nurses gathered around the baby and the doctor was like, hey, I need some help here. And I was ready to just like go grab a nurse and be like, keep this person alive, please. 4 nurses around the baby are probably okay, I promise. I trusted them. I didn't do anything. They were all fantastic. But it was definitely an interesting thing for me of realizing like, and I think part of that's also I hadn't held Penn yet. I hadn't like started to build a connection with that yet. And like, I hope I never have to have that kind of a choice. And who knows what I'm going to do now that Penn is a reality in my world. But that was a very interesting moment for me of realizing like how I think I had a different experience because Mary had some of these health issues at first, Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you were concerned, and I'm going to encapsulate it, and I might not capture. You were saying last week that you feared you wouldn't know your role in the birthing room. Did you end up feeling that, or did you end up feeling completely
I think
present and
I was being very careful not to sort of like, I didn't want to be again, it's interesting how much TV has shaped us for this, but also like a lot of the way people talk online. And like, one of the things I'm learning is that social media is I've always known this, but like just one more example of this. Social media is a terrible way to learn about things because people only talk about the bad. They very rarely talk about the good. And I've heard so many stories and seen on TV a lot of stories of male partners being overbearing and wanting to take control and wanting to like decide, think they know better than the doctors and the nurses, or thinking they know better than their female partner what's wrong. And frankly, that last part especially is probably why I didn't push harder that night before and be like, Mary, you're in labor. Because I was like, no, this is her body. She knows.
Sure.
It looks like labor to me, but she's telling me it's not. It's not. Of course, it turned out I was right. I'm only going to hold that over her for the next 30 years, maybe.
Good for you.
But so I think it was more I was just I wanted to kind of sit back until I saw a need. And then when I could see this, that like the nurse was kind of helping to coach Mary, but was also doing a couple of things. And again, I asked, I said, hey, is it okay if I help with this? And then she said it was fine. And so at first all I did was the counting. And then I kind of like each time did more and more and more and could see that it was helpful. And then I guess here's one more story I didn't get to tell. Maybe about like 45, we got like 15 or 20 minutes or so with the baby after it was born and cleaned up and stuff like that. And then they were like, okay, we've got to like go like take some blood tests and stuff. And Mary still was like recovering from all the bleeding she'd had. Abby was with Mary and kind of helping take care of her. And I was like, you know what? I'll go to the nursery and take care of this.
Yeah. And
this was maybe the first time that Super Dad came out because, like a lot of babies, they had a lot of trouble finding a vein. That's something that runs in the family genetically. And I started, as they kept like poking and prodding and the baby was crying more and more, I started becoming very protective and very like, hey, this is not cool. And there was one nurse who, and granted, it's a tiny little syringe and maybe this happens for everyone, but she was older and I could see her hand was shaking as she held the syringe. And after the first time she tried, I was like, hey, can I ask someone else to try and do this? And they all kind of gave me dirty looks and did it, but they still did it. There are plenty of medical professionals who are older than this woman who are fantastic. I'm just saying she was having this problem. But that was also when I started something that like, it makes sense because I'm just a person who makes up silly little songs to sing to Mary a lot or to myself a lot. But I've probably like 90% of the time, if I'm holding this baby or near this baby, I'm singing to the baby. Mm-hmm. And so I started like narrating the whole process to the baby while it was going through this. And, it seemed to have, I of course, Penn has no idea what the hell I'm saying. He probably doesn't, but it helped keep him calm. It was a very traumatic experience. Yeah. And I think that was another one of those times where it was like, okay, this is kind of my role as well.
Yes, of course.
And then I think the third thing was that, like, one thing we're really all baffled at is, and Mandy, you're going to be like, of course, you stupid boys, this is just how it works. But like, again, I just know what I see on TV. We keep being told now that milk really doesn't really start to come in until like 3 to 5 days after birth. But I was expecting that like I was going to be totally superfluous because all the feeding was going to be breastfeeding. It wasn't really happening though. It's starting to come in now more, but Mary was having trouble with it. So I ended up doing a lot of the feedings in those first 24 hours. And I think that was another way of kind of me letting to feel my place, skin to skin contact and stuff like that. And yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I know.
So I really relate to Mary struggling in the in the bleeding issues, and only because our second was delivered and everything was early and jaundiced and lungs weren't working, and they whisked him off to pediatric NICU, right? And that was happening while Kira was having a seizure disorder post-birth. And so we had that bifurcation of staff. Yeah. And I was in kind of a panic state. And I don't know if it would have been easier had it not been my second, but I was already very attached to the kiddo. Yeah. As he came out. But the thing that was almost comical was he was in NICU for days, but we had been discharged and they took our room away. So we had, like, literally, I was in the lounge most of the time. A kind nurse had set up a cot for Kira in a broom closet, like in a janitorial closet, so that she could sleep for a few hours because they didn't have a room to give us. And that whole experience, I think, I wonder, I guess this is more of a question for Matthew in like 2 years. But I wonder if that experience of sort of birth and post-birth trauma is something that will engender you even further to Penn, to your relationship with Mary. Like that whole experience for me, I found was super transformative.
And they named the whole unit after your son.
Yeah, that's kind of great.
Boom. Right?
Nice.
Am I the first person to say that?
You are absolutely the first one to say that.
I'm such a loser.
For those listening at home, do you want to remind, what is your son's name?
Nick.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, we love it. We love it.
It took me way too long to get that. Way too long.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was that time in the nursery and helping to kind of like, be with him while he was going through that was really the moment for me that it was like this really all, like I loved the idea of this child, but I think again, it was in that moment of like seeing Mary, the person who I had a tangible relationship with. Yeah. That's where my focus was. It was in that nursing, in the feeding later and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just been such an interesting experience of like all this stuff that is so theoretical and all becomes real. I was gonna say actually so I love living in Minnesota. I do find Minnesota nice, and the lack of direct communication, and everyone like the idea of being super direct is considered very rude. And I've basically I was like, Mary, you're dating someone with autism and ADHD. Like you have to be direct with me. It's not possible not to. And I've taught her that, and then through the two of us have been teaching her family that. It's big changes. But most of the rest of the state is not like that, which can be frustrating for me at times. And I'm sure everyone thinks I'm an incredibly rude New Yorker. But I will say that sometimes what it means is that if I'm direct in a way that I think of as just being normal, but other people probably are like, oh my God, that person's the worst Karen/New Yorker I've ever met in my life, it gets shit done. And when we got to the point where the baby was definitely ready to be released, but Mary was still having blood pressure issues, like I had one conversation with a nurse about like, well, so we're all staying here together, right? And they're like, well, I mean, we can do that, but like the baby could definitely go. And I just sort of was like, we're staying here all together until Mary's ready to go home, right? Yeah, okay, that's what. And I'm just like,
Good for you.
and I'm sure they told stories about what a rude, obnoxious, parent I was, but I was like this, because I knew especially Mary was so stressed out and Mary was so bothered by the fact of having to stay. If we'd taken her baby away and now she was alone in the, like, it's,
Right.
there's no way we're doing that, so.
Well, and there is no universe where you are the first potentially rude, assertive parent to those nurses. Like, they get it. And I so feel for the nursing staff and the administrative staff who have to figure out, like, how do you meet the needs of brand new parents while you are sitting under the weight of the hospital industrial complex.
Yeah.
And that is really, really hard. And it sounds like they navigated it pretty well for you.
With the exception of one person who did not have a good bedside manner, but still was very knowledgeable what they were knowledgeable about, and keeping Mary there was definitely the right choice. All the hospital staff were fantastic, and not to get political on Maine, but this is just a thing that right now, unfortunately, in this world is worth mentioning. At least half the people who we worked with as medical professionals, and this is including some of the doctors, had thick accents, indicating they were not, from around here, and were all just amazing people who, like, them being there helped keep my baby safe and clearly was adding to the goodness of my family and the hospital and the city and the country. And so just wanted to kind of, throw out that plug of, like, if I ever wanted a living reminder of how important immigrants are to this country.
But they were eating dogs and cats on their lunch break.
Of course. And
I remember one story when I was trying to breastfeed, and I didn't have a good time or a successful time breastfeeding. So if Mary has questions, I know I don't know her, but I'm happy to offer my ear, shoulder, wisdom, whatever it is. But this woman came in to my room in the hospital, lactation consultant. I hear you're having a hard time. Let me see my boy. Give me my boy. Let me hold my boy.
I don't care for
this
that.
is my boy. And I was like, no, he's not. No, he's not your boy. And I don't think I spoke up to her. She was terrible. I didn't have luck with her. And she was like, we'll try again. Get some sleep. You're tired. And the next nurse came in and said, how was it? Did you have any luck? And I said, no. And I don't want her back in this room ever again.
Yeah.
I want somebody else, please. It was like, I'm a mom for, 11 hours and she's taking my baby and calling him her boy. Ugh.
Yeah.
I can't be the first person to complain about that. That was terrible.
Yeah. It's funny, the things that stick out, right? The things that you don't know, right? Those unknown unknowns that just fracture you, right? When I didn't know that I would be frustrated by, watching the way they tried to, actually insert an IV into the foot of my newborn baby. I didn't know that that was a weakness for me, and it absolutely is. I
I
these
think one of the most
new
terrifying
things are now exploding around every corner.
So I have a question for you, Pete, and this is going to be fairly TMI, and I apologize. And Mandy, I'm curious your thoughts and also your partner's thoughts, but I think Pete is going to have a better ability to relate to me on this particular question. And again, this could be very TMI for people about birthing, about like post-birth and stuff like that. But often when the baby is releasing its solid waste out into the diaper, the first couple days it's black tar, and it's very sticky and looks like something out of an alien movie, and it sticks to everything. And the first time I saw the nurse change, as I said, I have a baby that is, as far as we know right now, male. Who knows what it'll be in the future, and we'll support and love it. But right now it has, out external genitalia instead of internal. And she took the baby wipe and it was just rubbing really damn hard on the butt cheeks and then rubbing really damn hard on the testicles. And I just went the same way that like most people who have that piece of anatomy do. You know, if you watch someone like get kneed in the balls on TV, you just go and later I had to do it, and like the nurse was watching. She was like, "No, you got to rub a lot harder." And I was like, "But that's gonna hurt." and they explained to me like, "No, actually, like the pain sensitivity comes in a lot later."
Yeah.
But like, was that a weird moment for you, Pete, when you had a male son?
100%. 100%, because it gets everywhere, and there's a lot of like grabbing and pulling and stretching and wiping, and the whole time I'm like needing to take a knee while I'm inflicting this catastrophic pain in my head to this other human being. It is not pleasant. I absolutely relate. It does go away. It will pass.
Also, great movie scene, The Change Up. Jason Bateman diapering his two kids in the middle of the night. Have you seen this?
No.
Hilarious scene. I highly recommend watching that scene on YouTube. I love the movie, but you know, there's lots of
That's it. There's a lot of
diapering
that.
fodder. Yeah.
Oh God, diapering is tough. The other thing that I will say, if it hasn't happened yet, is when the change happens, and this is for any biological sex child, that sometimes you remove the old diaper and action isn't finished. Yep. And the number of times I have been peed on in the face by my children is non-zero, and it is unpleasant, and be ready for it. My dad, one of my last messages from my dad when we had her, he was sitting in the rocking chair as I was changing the diaper, and he had this whole speech. He was like, "This is just so great to watch you be a new dad, and I'm just so proud of you, and you're going to love that kid, and he's just going to grow, you're going to nurture him." And it was just on, these really sweet things. And then the child peed right all over me, and it's a fire hose going all over the place. And my dad turns and says, "And then they'll just turn around and piss on you right in the face." It's like, thanks for the metaphor, non-metaphor, Dad. That was really great.
We have had that happen. We've had also solid things come out while you're in the middle of diapering, and they're just like, right, you want to go.
Sometimes explosively.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put the new diaper over the penis.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You're doing this?
Learned. Yep. We're doing that. We're doing that.
All right.
We learned
It's a
that
lesson
part.
you only have to learn once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and actually I found out there is science behind it. It's that when, like, especially at that young age, there's a sudden shift in temperature on the penis that induces urination. And so that's why you take the diaper off and like, woo.
Yep.
So we've learned how that works. We've learned
And is the
all
baby's
sorts of things.
poop have seeds yet? They also go through a phase where it looks like stone ground mustard
Yeah.
with like seeds.
We're getting in that direction, and I think I can actively see our listener count going down, so we're not going to go too much more into the TMI. But yes,
God, that fascinates me. Like the you go through these changes in their feces until it becomes just good old fashioned feces.
I will say this. I had always been of the opinion that when people talk about like people turning different colors, that when they're sick or going through things, that it was kind of like a light shade, you know? Our baby had jaundice, like an awful lot of jaundice, to the point where like Mary had brought a very nice yellow onesie to put the baby in. And it looked horrible because our baby was yellow.
Yeah.
Not a
Your baby
pale with a
clashed.
little bit of yellow. It literally was clashing.
Yeah.
Or it was like the same, it looked naked.
Yeah. At the same time, like for the first 3 days, the hands were bluish purple.
Yeah.
And I learned that now it's because the blood circulation system slowly kind of, at first it's
Got to
like,
turn on.
yeah, let's get to all the major organs first and the brain. It's like, okay, well, that's smart. Let's do the hands last. So, but yeah, we spent we'd every now and then catch ourselves unconsciously like rubbing its hands a little bit, like because it looks like blue, like you want to warm it up. But so, so that's been our parenting experience. now a parent. I am now going to probably take a couple of weeks off of recording. And I think this is kind of, I want to let you guys finish up, but I'm just going to say for our listeners, this is going to be a pretty regular podcast, but I think we're going to kind of release it in sections almost. And this is kind of like, section 1, of like the pregnancy up to the moment. It's like season 1, the birth has happened, and we'll start. We haven't even recorded, we haven't released our first episode. So for you guys, it's probably still going to come out week to week to week, but we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit and then start recording again in a couple weeks.
For members, can we do the prequel of conception?
Do we have an 18 or only filter that we can have
yet,
for that?
But we could start that.
I'm all for the next Real After Dark. But Barry White playing and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Any last thoughts or questions from you guys before we wrap up?
I just have to tell you, I just love the idea of you being able to record this journey so far by way of this podcast. And I'm honored to be able to sort of sit alongside you and Mary and now Penn. It's just really, really a treat and an honor. Thank you.
Ditto.
Well, I'm glad that you see it that way, because I think it could also be seen as I don't think a thought in my head is worthy unless I've shared it with total strangers. Which
two things can be true, Matthew.
Used to be called a psychosis, and now is called a healthy podcast. So
it's called a podcast.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's been great having you. To our listeners, of course, we want to know what you think of all this. Tell us your birth stories. Tell us your, are you listening to it? Like, is this podcast making you more or less excited about a potential child in your future? Let us know. What are other topics you want us to talk about? What are things you want us to do? Do you want me and Pete to just go back and forth to dad jokes until Mandy screams in pain? What's an episode that you want to hear? On behalf of myself, Pete, and Mandy, you can find all of our podcasts by going to the nextreal.fm website. Click on either Pete Wright or Mandy Kaplan and find all the awesome things that we're doing. Please check all that out. Please check out the other episodes of this podcast. And most importantly, may the force be with you.